Hey, Sean, can you give us any updates on any injuries that might have come out of that game?
You know what? Unfortunately, I have not gotten with Reggie yet. We had to close our building down. This COVID thing has taken over, kind of all the things that we're dealing with right now. And so where we're at with everything, I have not connected with Reggie on any of the injuries. So I apologize for not having that. I will later on with you guys whenever we connect next. Where we're at right now is navigating through this COVID stuff. We had to test guys. We're in intensive protocols. We're remote today. We will be remote tomorrow. How that affects the way that we operate for the rest of the week is a product of, all right, how does all this stuff come up as far as, if we have any more positives, things of that nature. But this has definitely been the most uniquely challenging situation we've dealt with COVID over the last 2 years, no doubt about it, specific to our team, the amount of people that are affected, both players and staff. And so don't want to get into too many specifics, but there's going to be more people that are affected by this, and how we navigate through this is going to be key and critical to our success moving forward and navigating through the rest of the month of December, finishing up our regular season into January.
Can we take that to mean that there are more players that will
Yes.
be going on onto the COVID list?
Yes.
Wow. And you can't identify?
Just out of respect for those guys' privacy and really not knowing the circumstances, and we're still in the process of gathering all that information. But what I can tell you is more players and people will be affected by this, as they already have been.
And any updates on the guys that were already, in terms of the status of the 5 that were on it? Are they close to coming off, or what's happening there?
Yeah, the good thing is all those players were vaccinated. So we saw there was a situation where you tested out, two negatives before that 10-day period expired when you're asymptomatic, like what happened with TJ Watt earlier in the year. And so hopefully we have some similar situations to that. The Higbee situation was a false positive, so I expect to be able to get him back. And then as far as any of the specifics and how that affects those other guys that we've talked about going back to yesterday, moving forward, I'll have more information as the week goes on.
And then finally, from me, apologize to everyone else. So just to be clear, Sean, you guys are shut down. The facility is shut down for today and tomorrow. Is there any possibility that you guys could go to SoFi to practice at some point, or you just have to stay remote?
Yeah, it's a good question. It's really not a result of, if we have the ability to go and say, all right, we'll utilize the tent that you've seen to do meetings and be outdoors, that accommodates it. We wouldn't necessarily go to SoFi unless there was weather or other things restricting our ability to do that. I certainly wouldn't rule that out. But it's more a reflection of, trying to just keep people separate and eliminating just the cross contact of the amount of people that have been affected by this. And, the scary thing about all of this to me is every single person is vaccinated that we're talking about. That's the thing that's the most concerning about all this, is everybody's done exactly what they could. I trust that these guys are taking the right precautionary measures. And now, whether it's this new variant or whatever it is, now you're adding a lot of layers to this situation that we thought we were past. And that's the thing that I think is the most mind-numbing about it all for me. But to answer your original question, I apologize for being long-winded, but we will be remote today. We'll be remote tomorrow. And then what it looks like going into, what is today, Tuesday and Wednesday. I mean, my head is all discombobulated playing on Monday night and all this stuff, but we'll be remote for the next 2 days. And then what it looks like, as far as the rest of the week is to be determined, just based on the circumstances and the best way to navigate and negotiate through this.
Thank you.
You got it, Gary.
Great. Hey, Sean, now, obviously, that's the most important thing to talk about. But after having watched the game in the last 12 hours or so, what are your main takeaways from what you saw that you may not have known right off the field last night?
Yeah, you know what, Greg? I think it was kind of confirmed a lot of the things that I think we all probably felt after the game. Good, complete team win. I really thought our defense played hard. I love the way that guys that were asked to step up did so. Really explosive offense where, they made a couple of their plays, but I thought we played great. I thought Aaron Donald was outstanding right from the first snap to the last. I mean, he made his presence felt, and then offensively, I thought Matthew Stafford played his best game as a Ram in terms of just the circumstances, the situation, the decision-making, elevating everyone around him. Thought our receiving group as a whole was really good. Those guys stepped up. I mean, what can you say about Joe Noteboom and just the toughness he's displayed? being able to fill in for Witt at left tackle one game. Now he goes and starts at right tackle for Rob. He's playing an extra tight end against the Jaguars. Really love what he did. Coleman Shelton's been outstanding in the 2 games that he's had to step in and have great command against defenses that had a lot of issues. And, the consistency that Matt Gay is operating with, really with just our field goal operation in general, with Orzek with the snap, Johnny with the hold, and then Matt and our protection. Those guys have been paramount to our success. So a lot of good things, a lot of things that we can build on. But like anything else, it's on to the next one for us, especially in a short week. And what does that really look like and who we'll be doing it with? This is some crazy stuff.
It's hard not to notice how effective Matthew has been in play action situations. What's gone into, obviously making more of those in the last couple of weeks and his effectiveness in it?
Well, I really think it's been a reflection and a result of, him being able to maximize the opportunities that we've had. And then I think, some of the tough, hard-earned runs by Sony. We talked about some of the identity stuff. I think the good offenses do a good job of having the run and the pass complement one another. And I think you've seen that come to life the last couple of weeks. But some of those throws that Matthew made last night on those deep shots, the one to Van Jefferson as he's going to his left, still on the move, uncorks that thing 60 yards in perfect stride. And then the throw that he makes to Cooper on a similar kind of rollout where he's setting up and drops it right in over the top. Great route. I mean, because Murphy's in a really good position. Those are 2 of the best throws that you'll see. And that's pure talent, but then also a great feel and understanding of where the ball should go based on the coverage that we got right there. And I thought those 2 plays were as important as anything for what they represented during the course of the game and the momentum that kind of shifted in our favor as a result of both those positive plays.
Thanks, Sean.
You're welcome.
Jordan.
Hey, Sean, when you guys are in a situation when you are testing consistently and you travel and then you have things come up with, in this case, with Jalen and with Tyler, obviously Tyler's situation has changed since, but what happens at that point? Like, what are the logistics that then have to happen for you guys as a team? When you've traveled, you guys have all traveled together, and I know you can't get too much into the situation, but in terms of some of those extra intensive protocols that you're in right now.
Yeah, so it's a good question, and really, I'm the biggest thing that I can tell you is this is where we're remote, and everybody's got to test every single day. Then you're talking about adding masks into the equation. The good thing that we do still have the opportunity and the flexibility to be able to utilize is that tent. That tent last year is basically where we held all of our meetings. What you definitely want to do, you guys see our facilities. I mean, they're in essence trailers where you talk about just the certain, there's no ventilation in there. So you want to try to limit as much of that stuff as possible because of how easily, this can spread in that building. And so we'll try to eliminate that. But ultimately what that comes down to, Jordan, is masks, testing, and then really limiting your exposure. And how we do that is, going to be something that I'm going to be working through over the next couple of days to figure out the best way to do it with our team and to try to minimize guys while also maybe give ourselves a chance to get some of these guys back before we play the Seahawks.
And is your coaching staff going to be affected?
There's a possibility. We're still waiting on those results, and shoot, I mean, it could affect any of us. And so, again, all those guys have been vaccinated. We're in the process of getting those results back right now. So it's kind of like, all right, hey, ping. Oh, here's another one, another one, so I'm kind of working through all of that right now. And it's crazy. But you know what? It is what it is. And we got to deal with it. Nobody feels sorry for us, and you have to be able to keep it moving. But it has been an interesting last 48 hours, to say the least, as it pertains to COVID.
I guess I can't believe I'm even asking you this, but have you gotten your results back?
I haven't. I have not gotten my results back yet.
Thanks, Sean.
I feel great though, but that doesn't really mean anything anymore. So, all these guys that are popping positives feel outstanding. So go ahead, Dennis. I didn't hear you. You were muted.
I'm sorry. Last 2 games, do you feel like your team's in a good rhythm right now?
I do. I think they've done a good job. I've been pleased with that. There certainly is a long way to go, and each week you write your own story, and you got to be able to show up. But I do think that we want to continue to build on this momentum that the guys have established. my favorite part about all of it is as a result of the last couple of weeks, what they went through, it shows the mental toughness. And again, it'll be a different movie if we don't take care of business this week. And so that's where, you got to be totally and completely present. This league is ever changing, but I do feel like the guys have done a nice job establishing a rhythm. And I think the best thing I could say, Dennis, which we always emphasize and the other 31 teams in the league do as well, we played complementary football. Defense is getting takeaways. Offense is taking care of it. They're turning those into points. And, sometimes this can be a complex game, but there's a lot of simple things that go back and, are usually a reflection of achieving the results that you want. And that certainly is always going to be at the forefront. Other than points, those takeaways and turnovers and taking care of the football is the next most important thing.
Can you talk about the way the offensive line has been able to protect Matthew all season?
I think they've done a good job. I think there's been some situations really, Dennis, where I've probably called some stressful downs for them on some longer developing, deeper plays, whether we're in some 5-man or 6-man protections. But I think, I think protection is a reflection of all 11. I think the guys up front have done a great job. I think it's about guys separating in the timing and rhythm, quarterbacks knowing where his quick element throws are, and also playing in the timing and rhythm and not holding on to the ball too long, knowing how much, how much of a challenge it is to block some of these freaks that are rushing on the other side of the ball. And so they've done a really good job. I've been pleased with them. And I think the last couple of weeks have been a reflection of that. I think some of the sacks that we took yesterday were really Matthew of not putting the ball in harm's way. And you give them credit. They're an aggressive outfit and they made some plays.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Modesty.
Hi, Sean.
Hey.
Just to further clarify, when you say everything is remote the next 2 days, that means meetings by Zoom and not getting on the field?
It does. Yes. Yeah.
Okay.
It'll be, and the guys that need treatment and things like that, Reggie and his group will facilitate that in a smart manner where you're not leaving guys susceptible to kind of that cross contact. But yes, it does mean that we'll be remote and we will not be on the field. And really, that might have been an approach that I would have taken anyways, regardless of these circumstances, playing a physical game, traveling on the road Monday night, you get back late. I think the important thing for us is how quickly can we get guys turned around. So the answer to your question, yes, we will be remote for the next couple of days, and that won't mean any field work.
And the decision on when you return to something more normal, is that made by the league and by following league protocols, or is there a Rams decision involved in that?
We'll be able to get back into the building. It's really a Rams decision, but then some of the intensive protocols and following those parameters are by the league. But those are also things that we would have put into place anyways, because I think we all have the same intent of minimizing the spread, keeping guys as safe as possible, and then getting those guys that are affected back as quickly as possible so that we can, be as close to full speed and full strength for the Seahawks game this Sunday.
And then just finally from me, at a critical juncture, as you try to build what you call momentum, you know how hard it is to sometimes to take one good performance and turn it into the next. What gives you confidence that these problems this week aren't going to get in the way of preparation?
What these guys did yesterday. I think, the one thing that I was kind of mentioning to you after the game is what was so uniquely challenging is your preparation was already done. And then you find out that you're missing 5 key and instrumental players to the game plans, both on offense and defense. And so there's no time to say we're going to scrap this and adjust. Really, at least if you kind of have an idea of who's going to be available and who's not, you can plan accordingly throughout the course of the week with that week of preparation. And so what they did yesterday gives me confidence. How many players are truly affected and how many guys we have to count on maybe missing is going to be a big part of it. And that's where the coaches have to do a great job. And then the players' job is to be able to respond with that next man up mentality and mindset. And I thought that was on display at an incredible rate last night.
Thanks, Sean.
You're welcome.
Kalen.
Hey, Sean, thanks for taking the time. With Cooper, I mean, what is it about him that allows him to get so open? It seems like every time he's making a catch he's 3-4 yards away from the defender. What is it about him that makes him such a good separator?
Yeah, he's wired physically to be able to separate. He knows how to work edges on people. He's got as good a short space quickness and lateral agility movement As any receiver I've ever been around. I think he's so gifted and he's so smart. The preparation and the big picture understanding, where he's running a lot of routes where he's got decisions that can make. It's not necessarily a defined route. And so in a lot of instances, he's recognizing coverage contours, or he's understanding how to break off a leverage and be able to win some of those ISOs and some of the match coverages that we've seen, and then he's just making the plays. But the preparation, the way that he and Matthew have such a unique rapport, it's really special to watch those two guys work. And I think you're seeing, Matthew and Van and Matthew and Odell get more and more comfortable with one another. But what Cooper's done has been outstanding. And it is a true reflection of what you guys are seeing on Sundays or Mondays or Thursday nights, is the way that this guy consistently goes about his work in our building, with the way he approaches meetings, the way that he approaches walkthroughs, practice. He is the epitome of a pro, and it's why he's an all-pro player, and is mentioned as, MVP, offensive MVP, player of the year type of stuff because of what he's done. And he's such a joy, and I'm just so happy for Cooper, but I'm not surprised.
And then for you, I mean, like, how fun is it to watch a guy operate like that? Just as a football geek, I'm sure you geek out watching over how much of a technician he is as a route runner.
I do. I'm jealous I couldn't do what he did. No, he's incredible. He really is. And he is, some of our players, you start talking about these guys that you ask the questions about. Players like that are why you coach, to be able to work with such special people that are really, just amazing human beings, and also happen to be really special, unique football players as well. And that's something that, I'm so passionate about. But the human being is really what's so special about Cooper Kupp. And then he is an incredible football talent and player as well. But guys like him are why you coach. I'm so happy for him. And, I know the best thing about him is he's just so humble. He's so modest, and he's going to go right back to work and be so steady and so consistent with his approach to the week this week. And love Cooper Kupp, and he's balling.
Thanks, Sean.
You're welcome.
Stu.
Hey, Sean, I wanted to ask you about David Long. Obviously, he was thrown into a pretty big role last night after not playing nearly as many snaps, obviously, in the previous several weeks. What did you like about just the approach that he took to that and the performance he had?
Yeah, just what you said, the response. That's what I liked, is a guy that just stayed the course. He was sick last week, was inactive as a result of missing all last week with the flu. And he came back and he made some big plays. And I think the biggest thing for David too is, if you look at the first time we played these guys, there were some plays that I think he would tell you he wanted back, and maybe was at the moment of truth and had an opportunity to make some plays and just missed on them. He made them last night. He stepped up. He had a good look in his eye, and really happy for David Long. I thought our coaches did a great job getting him ready, and then ultimately David delivering. And that's my favorite part was his response based on working through some adversity. And I think that's kind of a theme with our team as a whole, is I really like the mental toughness of this group.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
All right, we'll wrap up with Nick, then Maria.
Hey, Coach. You talked about yesterday. You talked about earlier, rather, just about Cooper Kupp and him being this high football IQ and being able to, his memorization as far as being able to know the system, understand the system and the culture as well. How much do you feel like that's helped Odell Beckham get into the process as far as just understanding what is expected of him, but also being a part of such a major offense like what you guys have?
You know what? I think the best thing I can say about both Odell and Cooper is these are two guys that are pros, very smart, above the neck, really impressive, that have poured into one another. Odell came in with a really high football acumen. I think that's on display last night, where you can see I was ready to kill him, and he knew exactly what he was doing, going backwards out of bounds, knowing the clock was going to wind. I mean, he's such a smart player, Nick. I think they've both positively poured into one another. I mean, you're talking about two guys that really have established resumes in this league. Cooper is really playing at an impressive level. Odell's been playing at a high level, and then he's earned his reputation based on that production over the course of his career. But I love working with this guy. He's got a great look in his eye. He's got a great demeanor. And I think those are two really smart players. And I think just that group as a whole, I think you could bring Van Jefferson into that conversation with watching his acumen and just his comfort level build. And, if we can keep working with those three guys, and, Ben Skoranic's done a nice job when he's gotten snaps. You guys saw him in the mix and drew a big PI that ended up leading to a touchdown for us last night. So really pleased with Odell, really pleased with Cooper. Those are two of the smartest receivers I've ever been around. And Odell has just come in and embraced the culture because I think it was pretty natural for him because of how he is already.
And you talk about you talk about Cooper Kupp, you talk about Odell Beckham, but also Van Jefferson had 2 penalties last night. But what did you see in him as far as his growth and maturation? He didn't seem like he allowed those penalties to kind of dictate what his next moves are going to be. How encouraging is that for you, especially having the two wide receivers that you mentioned, but then having Van be able to grow up kind of in front of your eyes?
It's huge, being able to move on from one snap to the next. And those ones, he's fighting for the ball and then he's blocking and, he's really trying to give great effort. Those are things that you can correct. That's different than some of the things that take no talent, where it's just about focus and concentration. So those are easier to move on from. But I think you're seeing him, make some big plays, even just a 6-yard screen on the 2nd and 10 where he's catching and he's getting vertical, showing toughness, the way he competes without the ball. The 9-yard run was a big play for us in the high red area that he ended up having, after we had that penalty. And so Van is just continuing to become a more complete player. I think he's got great examples of what it looks like, and then you see, his dad is a great example that he's been learning from the jump. And that was pretty fun to be able to see Van have a big time play against his pop's team and rub it in his face.
Exactly. Thanks, Coach.
All right.
All right, Maria.
Hey, Sean, kind of getting back to finding out that guys are testing positive, during the week, you can always make adjustments. You have time. You find out that Tyler Higbee and Jalen are not available. How much adjusting could you guys do as a coaching staff yesterday?
Yeah, you know what? We literally found out, Maria, right before we do kind of our team meeting the day of when we kick off at night. And sometimes we'll walk through a couple little last things, and we had to extend that walkthrough. We put in, some 4 receiver groupings. We made sure that those tight ends that were going to be asked to step up and fill the role. And so, then you end up, there was a lot of adjustments because not only that, but we had some stuff. We were planning on Joe Noteboom being an extra tight end and he's starting at right tackle instead of Havenstein. So it forced us to make a lot of last second adjustments, none of which I've ever been, that's something that was brand new to me. So we ended up having a much more extended and elongated walkthrough. We did the same thing defensively. Fortunately, because of some of the things that Jalen was working through, a lot of those guys that did play last night got some of the walkthrough reps during the course of the week. So wasn't as much adjustments, but the things that you can do with Jalen are things you can't do with anybody else. And so we definitely had to alter and adjust some of the priority calls. I thought Raheem and our coaching staff defensively did a phenomenal job. And then I thought our offensive coaches did a really nice job. Wes Phillips deserves a lot of credit for being able to get those young tight ends ready to go, as does Kevin Carberry for having Bobby Evans ready to step up in short notice, and Yarber getting Ben Skoranek ready to play more snaps than we anticipated from him as well.
Do you think that maybe sometimes it works better that guys don't have very long to think about it? They just have to go play? Or
I totally do. Yes, absolutely. I think it is a very fine line where you don't have a chance to overthink anything. You just got to go react. And sometimes you can almost be conscientious to a fault. And there's no doubt about it. I think that's a great point. And I totally agree with you there, Maria.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Hey, Coach, Gary has one more after the 6 he asked earlier.
Well, of course he does. Go ahead, Gary.
Very quick, Gary. Let's go.
Sean, we all saw around the league last season, this season, some teams have gone through this kind of onslaught of COVID cases, and you guys had largely avoided it. So did you feel at all bulletproof, or did you sense at some point something like this was coming?
I felt bulletproof, and then I got shot 5 times in the chest yesterday. No, you know what? I am very surprised because you feel like you're behind it when everybody's vaccinated and you're moving in the right direction. And without a doubt, Gary, we never have experienced anything close to this magnitude as it pertains to COVID. And so this is definitely something that's been eye-opening, and it's something that, hey, you just have to figure it out. Nobody's going to feel sorry for us. We got to keep it moving. And so what that looks like is going to be interesting.